So good afternoon. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here with us in the Digital Enterprise Show today. In this case, we're going to start the utilities vertical, and we're going to start with something that is a hot topic for utilities, and it's the energy and utilities analytics. So we know that there's a digital transformation going on in terms of utilities. It's at different stages. In some utilities, it's quite advanced. In others, it's starting. But in any case, it represents challenges and threats for utilities. So basically, they're able to get more data when they have smart metering and smart grids, and that's a big change. And then they have the lifeblood that is that data and how they use it. The analytics are the ones that are implemented in order to solve the challenges that sound as something new, but I think that they're not that new. So from one side, it's like, okay, how are you going to retain your customers and how are you going to be able to fulfill their demand, which is not that new on the other side, but we're solving it in a different way. On the other side, it's like, how are you managing those operational costs that will be increasing if you're changing the services that you're doing, especially if we're in a regulated framework and it's a regulated activity. And last but not least, I think that it's a problem that we've all faced at some point when we're working in utilities. It's a regulatory framework that is changing, that is telling us what to do, but it's not stable, there's lack of clarity, or we believe from our side that there's lack of clarity because we're on the business side, okay? So please help me to welcome on stage three amazing guests for this panel. I will start with David Totman. Thanks, Mr. David, for coming. He's an industry manager for RC Global Water Practice. He has 36 years of experience in the water industry. He has been applying your spatial information systems for business process optimization, project analytics, infrastructure management, so across the piece and across the supply chain. He has worked in one of the largest municipality-owned utilities in the US, the Colorado Spring Utilities. And on top of that, he's a member of the boards of the American Society of Civil Engineers and the Open Design Alliance, and member of several associations. Many thanks for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Please help me to introduce Mr. Luc van der Horst. He is the head of the power generation business unit at Siemens. He has 21 years of experience in engineering, project management and sales and marketing. And not only that, he has been working in the energy arena for those 21 years across countries, across borders, seeing different regulatory frameworks, different ways of acting and interacting with all your customers. He has been working in Germany, US, Mexico, and now in Spain for the last 8 years. So thanks for being here. And his formal education, he's a mechanical and electrotechnical engineer. So he will be able to give us both sides of the equation. And last but not least, thanks Mr. Gorka Tienza for coming. He's an account manager in Viva. He has 18 years of experience working with data and analytics in a professional way and and setting up businesses and implementing and developing businesses regarding business analytics, big data, business intelligence, and data and in data governance arena. He has been working in a wide variety of sectors, so I think it's going to be super interesting to have your insights in this panel, because he will bring us the expertise from different sectors, from finance to retail, travel, pharma, telco, so it's like quite a lot. Always extracting value from information. So I would like to open the panel with one, I think that it's one easy question, but to set the tone and see how we evolve. So how are companies implementing data analytics to solve a traditional new problem that it's acquire and retain customers? And I would like to start with Mr. David Totman.
Sure. So as far as this new age of digital transformation, and we see, most of the folks out there on the floor here have solutions that help us collect the data, manage the data, to store the data, visualize the data, but eventually, make decisions from that data. With respect to the customer management side, we look at it in the States, simply because of our geography. We have very small utilities, very large utilities, so we're always dealing with these realms of these spectrums, these continuums of solutions. And I think when it comes to the customer base, I mean, everyone has one of these in their pocket, or two or three of these in their pocket, and customers are wanting to run their household, and so they expect you to run your utility off of one of these. And so there's opportunity for that, but there's also obviously challenges. And so what we kind of see in across all utilities, electric, gas, water, wastewater, this digital transformation, this consumer accountability, the transparency is coming down to the individual's phone, to the consumer's phone. So they want to have access that, and they don't quite understand that line of sight from either in my case in water, from the raindrop to the faucet, from the source water to their faucet. They don't understand all the systems that are taken into place, but they also don't understand that, managing my utility on the phone, there comes with it certain security issues, data volume issues. There's also almost this false sense of security, if you will, with digitization. Automated meter reading, AMI is alive and well in the United States, but there's also kind of this false sense that everything's being taken care of. I was sharing with one of my colleagues with customers in specific that this one utility, using some of our spatial business intelligence tools, basically with automated meter reading, there's this presumed assumption that everything's working. And because I have these digital meters installed, and when I'm running through my account system with millions of rows of, say, revenue from every monthly bill that my customers graciously pay for, it's just assumed that there are some dead meter reads, and they're like, okay, well, that's acceptable. I'm getting the most bang for my buck. But when we started applying a spatial analytics, we quickly found like entire neighborhoods that were out because of bad batteries. We just assumed that these meters, because it's a digital system, that it's working, and rather than assuming these lost records were just in the noise, we actually applied some spatial patterns to it and realized, whether it was a bad batch of batteries on these meters or what, but it takes that spatial and temporal analytics to truly understand what's going out there in your customer base, right? Okay. And so each of the customers, not like they were complaining that their bills weren't being, provided each month. But again, it's kind of that, that concept of the temporal is incredibly important. And there's even a continuum on how timely is real time. It can be per nanosecond in our field if we're looking at pump impeller pressures to understand pump performance for energy analytics, or if it's quarterly is good enough for, say, customer understanding. So anyway, so there's all this continuum where you have to have that spatial and temporal understanding of your customer base on how to run the utility.
Sure. Thanks for that. It's like from a water perspective, it's really interesting. And please, do you want to add something from the energy perspective, from the energy sector
I'd
side?
like to pick up on Dave what he said about when the reality hits the road, right?
Yes.
Because indeed there is already a lot of systems, and everybody is very eager to connect all the different possible systems to kind of a global network or a cloud, and then to start to do the data mining. But the reality is that in proportion to all the systems available, it's relatively limited. Now, nevertheless, we try to take any potential out of already what is available. So there is already, for example, like demand management, where you can forecast the demand, start to play with storage, new storage systems, or you can take the cost of the electricity on the grid into account, and you can also then look from the consumer side and start to manage that in a more clever way, so that it's either cost efficient, or you save on emissions, or you do have a better use on the energy efficiency. Now, what really is pushing right now, I think, it's more the promise of the future. So there's a strong push to do first things first, which is first to get connectivity. So try to get same protocols. try to get one and a common system where all the systems are connected. And one difficulty to talk about utility is not part of it, it's not utility anymore, it's the connectivity between all different systems that were not connected before, which now allow to put intelligence on top of it.
True.
So we will look to hotspots on a combustion engine and what might be going on in the aluminium forecasting heat demand. And how do you connect now demand and supply with the variations of environment into context? So first it's about getting the connectivity. It's about getting the same sensoring and getting a lot of information into that common platform. And then we can start to really do data mining. And data mining goes into two senses. One is you already know what you're looking for. So if you look for gold, then we of oil, you go for gold and oil. But a lot has to do, we just don't know. So it's in many of the workshops we have with customer, the first trouble we have is, hey, where are our customers? Because there is no producer, transmitter, distribution, consumer. It gets all mixed up right now. So consumers becomes producers. We talk about prosumers. The partnerships are changing also. Before we had competitors and partners, so now sometimes we don't really know. We're just part of the game. So it's just getting very diffused, everything. But the main purpose, it seems where everybody get excited, is just get around the table and now, let's do data mining. And you go and then you might discover, hey, this is very valuable information, and you put intelligence on top of it. So again, where we're striving right now is the connectivity, is to get the different sensoring equipment, and then of course, how do you develop the intelligence capabilities in part of it? And you engage the customers. We have many things, but we believe it's just we're at the brink of something so different and so new that probably the benefits of it right now are cannot be discovered. But just for the sake of example, of course, load forecasting for the utility is very key. They would try to understand to not have too much capability on the network, on the grid, because of course equipment and standby is very cost intensive. So you try from one side, for example, to drop the equipment capability to do very quick startup when you suddenly everybody switch on this air conditioner. Much cheaper is to have them called and to be able to forecast that in 6 hours from now we'll start up, so I don't need to keep a reserve rotating, for example. But you don't want to have too few, because then the reliability of the electricity is going to be put in jeopardy. So this is a good thing where you want to use some intelligence to be able to design your grid capabilities, for example. Okay. I'm so excited about the topic, so you need to stop me.
I can see that. I think it's like, I think that it's really interesting. You were pointing out something in terms of how the sector is moving and how utilities are moving, and it's true. It's like I was recently seeing how the traditional model when I was working there, it was like, okay, you have a utility, you have a supply chain that is clear, you go from upstream to downstream, everything works out and all that stuff. Then suddenly downstream is upstream, so the distributor is receiving flows in different ways, it's difficult to manage, equipment is not prepared, the regulatory framework is not always there to help in terms of the management stuff, and the traditional services like billing, collecting, it's like they're also changing, because before it was as easy as just sending an envelope with your bill and saying like, okay, I'm fulfilling all the requirements. The cost was easy, right? It was like, okay, X number of customers times 50 cents equates to X. Now you have a platform, you have service providers, you have to have a service that is running 24 hours, different mobile frames, different online and offline channels, everyone asking for different things. So yeah, it's true, and I think that it's like, it's like I would really love to have your insights, because you've seen like all other sectors, and how do you feel about this?
I mean, analytics can be applied to anything, really.
True.
I mean, you can apply intelligence to any business process. So
Is it? I don't know. Put it down and up again. Yep. Up. No.
Sorry. I was saying analytics can be applied to anything. Really, we can apply analytics to, as you said, production or forecasting energy. But at the same time, also, as on the original question, knowing your customer or your prospect, really. For the utilities now, they have these great things that are the smart meters, which will bring them all this information from the customers. even if we have some issues that we mentioned before on security of the devices, because when we speak about utilities and analytics, analytics is the last step. Really, we have to put some devices. We are talking finally of IoT. IoT is a bit of, as I think you mentioned before, a bit of in a hype, really. We have, we have. I mean, we all want IoT. We want everything connected, but as you said, I mean, the networks. There are no common standards for this kind of communication. There are different network possibilities, and depending on the use cases, you can use one or the others, depending on what is the frequency. If it's the communication is bilateral, let's say, or two ways,
yeah.
two-way communication, or it's just one way from the sensor to the platform. So, sorry. Sorry.
Thanks.
We have this difficulty, let's say, of putting software into reality. Finally, we have to put extra security there. People steal things. People break things. I mean, we have storms. We have, if we are talking about putting things on the outside, not indoors. So for utilities, as I said, the great thing is we have these smart meters that will allow the utilities to get this information in quite an easy way. And know your customer. Know your customer. What for? As in retail business, which is finally we are talking about retail here, is knowing your customer will allow you to target campaigns, create new products. When I say create new products, I'm a bit of perhaps science fiction, but me as a customer, I would like to consume or do energy consumption based on kilowatts. Okay, I don't care if it's gas, if it's electricity, or if it's gas, electricity, petrol. Okay, really, what I think energy, and I'm talking about utilities and oil and gas, which is a bit of a utility also. I see the future as mixing this together in joint offers. I would say you should be able to offer your household with a pack, let's say, or a product, mixing, I need petrol, I need gas for heating, and I need electricity for my house. This kind of synergies, I think, would be great for the customer, and I think that, and I've seen in some customers, mainly in oil and gas, that they are trying to do this kind, with what they have, this kind of offering to the customers. Let's say you have a voucher, let's say, or capacity of this amount in petrol and gas, because I provide you with the gas. Well, this kind of alliances would be great. And regarding analytics, I think they have utilities have a great opportunity on this, on knowing your customer, understanding what are their needs, and doing these special products for each kind of customer, personalized offerings, and build these kinds of new offerings and innovate on this area, just like they do in retail. So since a bit of a while. Okay.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I don't know if you wanted to jump in, but it's like, hold on a second.
I really want to say
give me a
something
sec.
great.
And the thing is, like, it's true, but it's like, I think that it's like we have to see the wider picture in terms of like saying like, okay, the end of the old chain are those customers, and we're thinking about like households customers, maybe industrial customers. And I read a recent study that they were saying like, okay, analytics is boosting profitability in a conservative scenario from 20 to 30% for utilities in those success cases. So it's like, okay, yes, take it with a pinch of salt, because it's like we're only taking the success cases. But it's true that it's like on one side, it's like you're able to get segmentation from a retail side, but you're also able to manage, if they have to buy electricity, it's like in the wholesale market, you can have better decisions, data-driven decision-making in terms of like adding different data from different sources. What we were discussing before, it's like, okay, you can see how the curve and the consumption curve is changing with time, and not only that, it's like you can see it now in real time. Before, it's like you were receiving your readings every month or every 15 days or even every 2 months. I was working in the sector when the readings were every 6 months. So you had to handle that in order to make your decisions. Today, it's like there's a shift in terms of like, okay, first we have better information, it's more accurate, and is closer to the real time. Maybe it's not real time, but it's closer. This is better than having it every 15 days or every 1 month. So it's impacting every single activity that you do. It's like from the retail part, I totally agree with you in terms of segmentation, but also how we're managing the productivity of the workforce that is working in the utility. And that's translated into something else. It's like, that's really, it's really interesting how it's doing. That same study was saying that it's like you were able to enhance that productivity by 15% in terms of productivity hours. But when we were discussing, I don't want to steal your thunders, it's like when we were discussing 5 minutes ago before this panel, it's like you were bringing up one case that was super interesting, David. So it's like I will let Luke talk, and then it's like, David, if you can bring that example to here to the audience, that would be great. So Luke, please.
Okay, what I thought is, okay, indeed there is, I think we're going into comparison profiling. You can compare consumption, customers, events, and the more you have data, the more you can start to understand why is this more efficient, why is this less event, why is this transformer on the grid in this area getting more damages and so on. But what I think this part of this game is that we get very much sucked so quickly in a very detail. If we talk about energy, we should not forget there's a much bigger force into the play, which basically has to do that if you look at the energy consumption, it's still expected to raise by 1/3 up to 2035. Half of the investment is in renewable energy, which is very versatile and stable. And then we have also, we expect that the distributed generation is going to double in the next 10 years.
Yep.
So the characteristic of the network and the power supply and how they act just becomes so different. So the analytics is not just anymore about gaining customer, it's just about making it happen. Enabling all this to work because we have emission restraints, there's cost restraints, regulation restraints. So it's not possible with the old model of just big utilities distribution. So we go to virtual power plants, we go to smart grids, and what we discussed about before is prosumers. Yes. But again, don't forget the why. This is something much bigger into the game that is pushing us, and it's beside also having more safety and dispatch productivity and so on. So I'm eager to hear David's example now.
Okay, thanks, Luke.
So am I.
We were talking about how these analytics are changing. Not only it's like from the end side of that equation in terms of like the households as we know it today, but also in other parts of the supply chain in terms of like workforce and how in the US you're managing vast extensions.
So yeah, part of that, and to leverage even what Luke was saying, part of this, all this connectivity. We still have lots of organizations in the U.S. that are still on paper, even, right? And so we're in this big paper-to-platform transition because every utility, especially in the water industry, they're not immune to the regulatory provisions of providing safe, clean drinking water to every citizen. So from the largest to the large to the smallest to the small, they all have the same requirement. If you will, from an environmental perspective, but all this connectivity. So we're trying to bring them out of the paper world into the digital world. We're trying to establish this connectivity. We're trying to even simply mapping their assets because you have to understand you can't manage what you can't see, right? So you have to get these systems into place. But we're also in the U.S. and maybe experiencing abroad though is we have this vast workforce that's retiring. And we have all this institutional knowledge that's up in their head of these connectivity, of these configurations that's walking out the door. So we're working very hard to codify all of that institutional knowledge that's in their heads into these systems. There's a big movement in the U.S. called creating these digital twins of your natural and built environment. You create this digital twin, which is a synthetic model that shows all the connectivity. Helps you optimize basically again from source to consumption. In doing that though, yes, cybersecurity comes into play, but your digital twin, this synthetic model, is only as good as it reflects reality. And so you have to capture that reality that's in your workforce's head, put it into these models, into these algorithms to capture that, so that it becomes available on the phone, let's say. But it's really that let's say that connectivity that now that, let's say, you have the perfectly connected digital twin of your system, though consumers that are going to be using that, what are they truly like? And that's where, we also kind of get into the whole data mining of social media, right? So we can sense moods, we can sense behaviors, buying habits, which help us adjust energy. So we can pre-cool the homes. We can understand where, say, conservation might work in one demography versus another. So again, it's kind of, there's all this digital transformation is great, but also there's humans and policies that come into play. And so trying to understand them as much as possible and codify them, comes into this whole digital transformation, this whole IoT management, if you will.
Okay, I think it's really interesting, and you're picking up a point that I wanted to discuss with you. I didn't want to leave without having your opinion and your insights in terms of okay, we're talking about utilities, and I think when you're talking about utilities, you're always talking about the regulatory framework. It's like I've been working for different companies in different parts of the world, and there's always, when you talk to them, one answer. My regulator is the worst one. Is the worst one. And you're like, okay, it's not possible. It's like, I'm going to Brazil, I'm going to the States. It's like, okay, it cannot be the worst one always. At least one should be good. So in terms of that regulation, it's like from not only the traditional regulation that we have in the sector, but also the new pieces of regulation that are coming on top, because now we have new assets. If we consider data as an asset, it's like, what do you think in terms of okay, are the regulatory frameworks and the normal changes that we're used to in this sector helping, fostering this shift in terms of having a digital utility that is customer-centric? Or on the other hand, it's like, is this change in terms of regulatory framework putting some sticks in the wheel in terms of this change? And I would like to start with you, Gorka.
I mean, all regulations are limitations in some way.
Okay.
So, but there's two sides always to it. You have a limitation from one side, and from the other side you have new opportunities. It's always like that. So if we get a limitation like we have in Spain or in most European countries on for protecting personal data, I mean, the companies will have to adapt to that.
Okay.
And then we will have to focus on data governance mainly to be able to manage this. I mean, these limitations. To manage these limitations, and we'll have to solve these, let's say, limitations that are put by regulations using the tools we have. So we have data governance, and I think that's for the good, because otherwise we would be losing some of our rights as citizens. And so I think it's a good thing to put some limitations, and it creates also opportunities for experts on data governance, cybersecurity, for not having leaks of information, etc. Currently, on the last legislation that will be in place here in 2018, the famous GDPR in Europe, we have the right to oblivion, I say. So we have the right to oblivion. So this will be a huge investment from the companies to be able to guarantee that on the data. We already are used to to taking care of personal data, isolating it and aggregating it for using in analytics. But we have to put up some processes in governance for being able to suppress or delete the information that citizens ask due to this right to oblivion they have. So I think it's always two ways. We have opportunities, and we have limitations and opportunities.
Okay. So I'll go that way. So Luke, please.
So to add, it's about managing, we would say, polarity. So for example, right now, if we take connectivity, for example, the more data is available and connected to a cloud, and everybody can have access to it, from the washing machine to a windmill, the more advantages we can take out of it. So it's a bit for the greater good how do we all share and collaborate on providing access to this information? But still we're in a competitive framework, so we need still also to protect kind of the advantages you can take out of it. Or how do you protect and ensure you facilitate new suppliers or those, for example, would be easier. If I have a system, they invest in it with a battery storage system, electrical vehicle, virtual park, and I can allow that we're going to take a peak of demand out of it because I have a nice forecasting system.
Okay.
But nobody's rewarding me for that but I'm avoiding a peak in the generation, which is very, very expensive.
Sure.
So what type of regulation can we put into place that would also favor any of these initiatives, which might not be at the producer, but somewhere else in the system,
Sure.
again, that favors either emissions or cost or energy efficiency.
Yep.
And the other thing is, for example, how, and I think Europe has some of these programs like Edison and distributed energy system, which tries to force that all smart metering systems are put into place again, because right now we don't see the critical mass, but what if, so by private initiative that might not be enough.
Okay.
So we need always to find something that protects, gives stability for the investors and a legal framework, because if you feel uncertainty, complexity,
Yeah. Sure.
VUCA, right?
Yeah.
Then we all wait for somebody to make a movement. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
For us, from this regulatory environment, I always view everything as an opportunity. But coming from the States, we've had an interesting political past, and therefore our regulatory environment has been interesting, and there's almost this inherent distrust from the locals up to the federal when federal regulations are applied. So from a data perspective, we're investing heavily in these distributed frameworks, right? So a federal regulation will come down that the states need to implement, that it gets pushed to counties, get pushed to local. We have very few local regulations. It's usually top-down regulation, but the data to solve and to adhere to that regulation comes from the local community up.
Yes.
So we're in this push and pull of federal regulations to local data because they're the ones that have the precision to meet that broad brush regulatory requirement. So we're seeing federated data networks that we're moving to, yes, open data. We're moving to having these systems then also anonymized, oblivion, aggregated up and down. So you kind of use the precision that you need on the framework you need to be able to apply to this federal regulation, but with local adoptance, if you will. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that unfortunately we're running out of time. We have 2 minutes just in case someone has a question that you want to send to the speakers. Okay, no questions. So that means everything is clear. Okay, so we have 2 minutes just to use it. It's just like one quick phrase that in order to wrap up this panel with your one of your key ideas that you want to share with the audience. Let's start with Worka.
Well, I think things are changing a lot. We're moving from, let's say, solid things to liquid things. We have no longer products, we have services. And this is changing also all the processes in the companies, and they have to adapt to this, making more sensible offerings to adapt to the customers. So adaptation, really. I mean, we'll have to adaptation.
Okay, perfect. David?
For us, working at Esri, it's all about where, and a lot of these analytics are processing these massive temporal data streams, but it's all about something that's on the Earth's surface. And so injecting where and injecting location helps you understand where can answer why sometimes based on in situ conditions and such. So again, just tagging all of these spatial these temporal streams with an XY tag, it helps clarify the conversation.
Perfect, thanks. Look, your turn.
It reminds me, customer of us, they all get very aged and they are close to retirement, but the business is going to last for another 20, 30 years, right? The power plants. And they say, oh, how can we put our minds into the system? I say, oh, this is great. Let's do that, right? Put our minds into the system. It's just as easy. And it wakes up a lot of fear from, okay, where are we going to be as humans when all the systems are so intelligent? And we say, yes, it's true. As far as information is referred and how we manage information, there are already many examples where these systems are much more intelligent as we are. What they don't have is all the human aspects. And what are those? Collaboration, comprehension, creativity, empathy, trust. And in fact, we see that the boundaries are falling down and we need be much more human, I think,
True.
than what we are now, because the machine are going to take all not human part of it. So it's a bit philosophical, I know it, but I like the idea that in fact,
Bravo.
I think more an opportunity to be more human than the machines we are today, right?
I would like to add for that 0 seconds that I have. So it's like I was discussing that with Google the other day, and basically they are running experiments in which they're doing only machines, only humans, machines and humans, and in every single experiment, machines and humans coupled are always getting better results. So that's super interesting. I think that's like one of the key points. Yep. Thank you very much. Thanks all of you for coming, and many thanks for the speakers. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Borja.
you.
Thank you, everybody.